Now, sometimes I talk really big numbers on this channel, like how I made just shy of $10 million last year in 2021. But the issue is, I understand for some of you, these numbers might seem out of reach. So that's why in this video, I'm going to recount my 3-year journey I went on to make my first $100,000 by the age of 17. And in fact, I'm actually going to show you guys screenshot and evidence that I've never shown anywhere else before, and some of which was actually quite difficult for me to look back at and actually made me a little emotional. Now, it's funny, you can actually look back to 2017 and I actually made a video about my 3 reflections making $100,000 at the age of 17. If you even see the way that I talk, you can tell I'm just not as confident. I'm just a little bit more monotone. You know, I just hadn't fully stepped into the man that I wanted to become yet, but I had my first few tastes of success. And you know, in that video, it's funny, I literally talk about how my agency is on track to make $100,000 in 2017. I actually ended up doing $200,000 profit in 2017 from my agency. But as I said, that's not really important. What's important is the 3 years before that. So I'm gonna share with you guys a story of doubt, struggle, pain, embarrassment, feeling a little lonely, feeling a little confused, feeling a little stuck. And hopefully it gives you some insight on your journey to your first $100,000 and make sure that you accomplish it a lot quicker than I was able to do it. So the story starts back in 2014. Instagram was starting to pop off and there were tons of luxury Instagram accounts sprouting up. And I was actually following all of these pages, as well as lots of motivation and quote accounts as well. And I remember between the periods of 2014 to 2016, these were massive. Now, towards the end of 2014, I started an Instagram page called Fuck the Norm. Now, obviously, you guys can understand why I spelt it that way. I couldn't, spell it the way that I wanted to spell it, but yeah, that's why I ended up calling the account. And the funny thing is, it's actually still live on Instagram right now. So you can go to the page and see it. Like, that was actually me writing it. And a lot of you guys, if you want to get sort of an entryway into my mind at the age of 14 and 15, like I was visualizing, manifesting. I knew this was what my life was going to be. I just hadn't stepped into that life yet. My reality hadn't caught up to my thoughts yet. But anyways, back to the main point. What I was doing towards the end of 2014 and basically, most of 2015 was I was actually growing Instagram pages. I was selling promotions to other Instagram pages or e-commerce brands. And then I was growing the pages to a point and then I would eventually sell them. And actually back in the day, I was in many Telegram groups, and there was Telegram groups for basically buying and selling or selling promotions, etc. So I started off with that first Instagram page at the end of 2014. And for me, that wasn't really so much business. Like I just started that as sort of like a reflection, as a journal, like anonymous journal to myself. And then a few months in, eventually one day someone actually reached out to me and was like, hey, I'd like to buy a promotion on your page. And that is how I kind of got into that whole world. So I sold a promotion and then I got added to these Telegram groups, etc. And then I actually started a few other pages side by side with it. And if you guys remember, this around the time that stuff like Movement was really popping off, and the way they were popping off was influencer and sort of these Instagram promotions. So for example, it was pages like mine. I never personally worked with Movement, but it was, sort of products like that I was promoting on these pages. And then I would build them up to a certain point and then I would sell them. Now, once I started to make a little bit of money, I also actually started buying pages off people. So for example, I would buy a page that was a Porsche 911 fan page. I would take that, I would buy it for very cheap because the account wasn't worth much. I'd buy it and then I knew that, hey, everyone in here just likes luxury in general. And they're probably following so many accounts that they wouldn't even notice if I changed the page. So I would rename the page and change it to overall general luxury page, because then it was worth more and I could sell more promotions. You can almost think about like real estate, buying something under market and then sort of fixing it up so it's worth more, renting it out, and then eventually selling it. So while I was going through old text and stuff to sort of compile some evidence or, basically some documentation to show you for this video, and I managed to just find this on my WhatsApp history when I was, searching up the Instagram handle. So I actually sold the account for £1,000, which back then was around $1,400. And as I said, that initial page wasn't worth anything because it was really just like a sort of journal quote account, but some of the more luxury ones were worth more. That is basically what I did with Instagram accounts back in 2014, 2015. So between everything, it was around $10,000 I remember I made in that period. Obviously, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was around $10,000 profit that I made from that little venture. Then basically what happened is, 6 months after I started that, accounts were selling for like 1/5 of what they were selling for before. And same thing with promotions. Basically what was happening was everyone was just like undercutting each other and basically just driving the costs and sort of the market rates down. So it just got super difficult. And that first sort of personal journal account was actually the last account I sold. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna, pack it in and end it here. And I think I even said that in that text thread with that person. But on another note, while I was sort of going back to find documentation or evidence or whatever for this video, and I typed in that Instagram handle on my WhatsApp conversations, I actually found something that I totally forgot about. It was one of my best friends sending me a parody page of my Instagram. And basically what happened was some kids in my school found out that I had this page. And at that point I was a little bit more open about it. Like, hey, you know, I've got this business sort of, you know, running and flipping Instagram accounts and stuff like that. You know, I was making at that age pretty good money at the age of 15. But yeah, quite frankly, they didn't care. And you know, the reason I wanted to throw this in is because I think some people look at me and they're like, you know, he's superhuman, or, you know, I could never get to that point in life. And I want to make something very, very clear with this video. I am no different to you whatsoever. What you are looking at is someone who's been tirelessly working on themselves for 8 years. When I was 14 years old, I started reading a book every single week. That's how I was able to write such insightful things. And by the way, that was me reading a book a week. There was nonfiction, there was business, self-development, etc., etc. I'll be honest, growing up, I had no friends. Like, I was literally a loner. So I used to basically, for my birthday, I used to ask for Waterstone's gift cards for my mom so I could buy books. Like, if you went into my room, they were basically just filled with books at the age of 8, 9 years old. But I was a loner, and what else was there to do? So the reason I say all this is because if you are trying to do something and your friends are holding you back and you're getting picked on, and I never wanted to use the word bullying, like about kind of like the way I was treated in my school growing up. I don't know, I think bullying is like when someone is helpless. Like, the thing is, I've always had a absolutely zero tolerance policy for another person's opinion. Like, I was always that kid in school who, you know, people could say whatever they want. And as I said, I was an absolute loner. I had no friends. I would spend my lunches alone reading, and I never cared because I knew where I was going. Everything that I was writing on that Instagram page, I knew it was going to turn reality. And of course it hurt, and it wasn't nice having like all these people say this stuff to me in school and, you know, making, you know, mock accounts while I was literally making an income at 15 years old. At that point, once again, to support me and my single mom. And of course it wasn't nice, but then again, these are probably the same people who called me lucky when I built 4 schools for 2,000 children with zero fundraising, all with my own money by the age of 21 before they even finished college. So just to understand, when you're watching my videos, I am you, you are me. We are no different. There's nothing that I did that you cannot do. I just stuck to the plan for long enough. And if you do as well, I guarantee you'll make more than whatever I've done, 25-ish million in 8 years. You know, you'll probably put me to shame by then. So I guess back then I had no one to tell me this. So I just want you to know that I believe in you. Now, anyways, with all that out of the way, as I said, that whole Instagram thing basically kind of fizzled out because people just kept undercutting each other and whatnot. Well, to me, it didn't really matter, because as that was going on, I started to find a new passion, and that was fitness and going to the gym and training. And this has really been a theme of my life. I get super, super into something, a hobby, a passion, whatever it is. Like, I get super obsessive with it, and it still happens even to this day. I get super obsessive with it, and then I find a way to sort of integrate it in a more healthy way into my life. And so I started training in early 2015, and I got really, really into it, to the point where I actually would find people on Instagram that had, you know, certified personal trainer in their bio, and I would reach out to them because I wanted all of the NCAA books and the material and basically everything I needed to become a personal trainer. Even though I was 15, I couldn't become a personal trainer for a long time. And I studied so much, and I started networking with personal trainers in different gyms, you know, really just to find out what does it take to become a high-level personal trainer. And then what happened was, you know, my girlfriend at the time and the few friends that I had back then, their parents would invite me over to lunch, and basically I started selling their parents on personal training services. And I would literally sell them on 3-month packages. So as well as 5-6 people that I had networked with in the gym and actually sold them as well, I ended up making my next $10,000. So that brought me up to $20,000 at around the age of 16. And what was really important is I didn't just sell them on personal training services. I also gave them extra PDF guides. I gave them extra tech support. I gave them sleep analysis. I literally helped them remove more EMFs and more blue lights out of their bedroom. Like, I made it this holistic thing. And this was a very important business lesson for me that would translate later on in my career. And I realized that it's not about trading time for money. People don't want your time. People want a predetermined result. And if I wanted to make more money, I needed to focus instead on selling people this result rather than, you know, what I'm going to do to get there. So instead of selling people on like, hey, you're going to get X amount of hours with me, which was true, they still got that. Instead, I bundled in all of this other stuff to make sure that they had more conviction that I was actually going to be able to deliver on that for them. So I ended up doing that for another 9 months until I found my next passion. Now, before we get into that, if you're wondering, hey, how do I start a business? How do I make my first $100,000 online? The video that I spent the most amount of time and probably got the most well received this year is actually a video on YouTube, like it's entirely free. You don't have to click anywhere else. And in that, I basically used a matrix and an equation to assess the 6 to 7 most common money-making methods these days and basically get down to the bottom of what is actually the best using formula and actually, you know, using a method behind it. So if you want to watch that video, if that sounds interesting, I'll leave it as the first link in the description. And as I said, you can check it out in your free time. Now, as I was starting to train my friends' parents, I actually started a YouTube channel. And I talked about the books I was reading, the workout routine I had, the things I was working on, etc., etc. And through this, I started to refine my content creation skills, and this brought me to my next venture, shooting photos and videos for people. I did this for 3 to 4 months until I made my next move. And when I made that next move, it changed my life forever. Now, while I was creating all this content, one of my clients at the time, which was actually my old football club, well, they actually asked me, can I do this as a monthly service? And this changed my entire perspective. This was the first time in my life where I actually had a recurring monthly income coming in. I actually still have the proposal, and I initially offered them an ultimate proposal of £75 a week. So I actually landed on £95 a week, and they ended up accepting the offer, and I still have some of the invoices to show for it. And this was life-changing for me. Although my first client, I was basically creating so much content. I think it was 30 unique Instagram posts, 30 unique Facebook posts, 4 YouTube videos a month. They basically shoot the content, edit the content, post it, grow the socials. And I would at this point start the process of reaching out to clients and spend 7 months trying to find my 7 clients. And once I found it, I struck gold. My second client was a company called Athlete, which has now been rebranded to Genflow. And back then, I think they were worth $20–30 million. And the founder, Sean, had a really strong belief in me and basically, just gave me this golden opportunity to sign them as a client. I'm still really good friends with him to this day. And the last time that we were having dinner, without disclosing too much in detail, their company's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I actually charged them £1,900 a month, which I think was around $2,500 a month at that point. Then 3 days later, I signed my second client for £1,500 a month. And then 2 days later after that, I signed a client for £750 a month. So in the space of 5 days, basically 1 working week, I was making over £4,000 a month. That was mind blowing, honestly. There's around a 30-day period or so, I remember, from March 2017 to April 2017, where I didn't sign any more clients. But I always say, when it rains, it pours. So 30 days later, I signed a few more clients, and they were all actually my most expensive clients. And that brought my total monthly income to £15,000 a month, right around, I believe, $20,000 a month at the age of 17. And by mid-2017, I had crossed $100,000 in earning after trying for 2.5–3 years with many different business models. That's the story of how I made $100,000 by the age of 17. And as I kind of alluded to earlier in this video, I actually went on to make $200,000 in profit from my agency in 2017 alone at the age of 17. Birthday is 3rd of January, Capricorn. So basically a year correlates to my age. Then things got even more crazier. The next year, I made my first $1 million in a year profit. Then I went on to make $6 million in 2019 and 2020 combined. Last year, as most of you guys know, and it was very well documented, I actually made $10 million. And halfway into this year, I'm already at $6 to $7 million earned. Now, if you want to see how I turned $100,000 at the age of 17 to almost $25 million at the age of 22, drop a like on this video. And if it gets 4,000 likes in the first 7 days, I'm going to go ahead and upload that video next week. I'll post a full breakdown and share stuff in that video, kind of like I did today, that I've never shared before. So drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and watch out for that video next week if you guys can get to 4,000 likes.